What's up, guys? It's Dave. I just wanted to do a quick follow-up kind of review of the 15-inch MacBook Pro that was announced at WWDC this past Monday. The last video I put up was the first boot of that machine, and since then I've had some time to kind of play with it, do some things, and so I can follow up with an actual review now. The first thing I noticed when I got it out of the box, and actually in that video I actually commented on it, the first thing I noticed was how awesome the display is. It's easily the nicest display I have. Beats out my MacBook by far, beats out my iMac even, which is just a year old, and it just looks gorgeous. The brightness, I would say half bright on my MacBook Pro competes with 3/4 or full brightness on my iMac, which is considerable. And just the range of colors and the vividness of everything looks great. I've kind of switched up my setup here. I have my iMac to the left, that's what I'm recording this on, and then to the center I have my MacBook Pro, where my iMac used to be. So I can kind of easily compare them because they're side by side, and I definitely have to say that the display on the MacBook Pro looks way better. Not necessarily way better, but significantly better than my iMacs. So that's one new thing that's awesome. The second thing that I noticed was the improved battery life. First thing I did after I opened up and set up the MacBook Pro was I charged it, which didn't take long actually. It must have had a significant amount of charge on it when it was shipped, and I pretty much used it that whole afternoon for about 5.5 hours on one battery charge. Of course they say 7 hours or whatever, but that's always an overshot. It's usually a little bit underneath. When they say 7 hours, they mean like 7 hours just looking at a blank screen doing absolutely nothing. But this was actually about 5.5 hours of solid use. The first thing I did, just to give you an example of how long it lasted in some pretty tough conditions, was the first thing I did was I imported some images into iPhoto 09 because I've never used iLife 09, so I just wanted to give that a try. That works great. So I did that, and then besides just standard stuff, web browsing and downloading stuff and whatnot, I also, this is going to be a work machine, so I had to install Windows on it. So I did a whole Parallels virtual machine install of Windows Vista. So it made it through all that, and then after that, it made it through all of the updates and so on with Vista. And if you've done a Vista install anytime recently, you know that installing and updating can take quite a long time, and it's pretty taxing because it hits the hard drive a lot and all that. But it made it all the way through all those things without running out of battery life. It lasted quite a long time. As I mentioned, this is just going to be a work machine, so it'll probably just sit on my desk for a lot of the time, but just to know that I can take it out and not really have to worry about the battery life is pretty awesome. So there's that. Let me think. The SD card slot, which is also new on the all but the 17-inch MacBook Pro. I use that to import the photos when I was using iPhoto. Works great. I mean, how much can you really say about an SD card slot? Works exactly how you would expect. The only thing that differs a little bit from other machines is that the SD card slot actually sticks out a little bit, maybe like that much, out of the side of the machine. Most other devices that use SD cards, you push it in inside and then it kind of sticks, and then to get it back out you push it back in and then it pops out. This just sticks out a little bit. It's not a big deal, but that's just one difference that I noticed. Otherwise, it works pretty much just like any other external device. You push it in, it pops up on the desktop, and you can do whatever you like, import photos or whatever. So that works great, and I think it's actually pretty smart that they got rid of the Express card on the smaller machines, just because had I gotten an Express card slot, I wouldn't have ever used it. But here I am with an SD card slot, and I used it the first time I used the MacBook Pro, so that's going to be a pretty cool feature to have. Let me think. Other things, the glass trackpad. This obviously isn't unique to this version of the MacBook Pro, but it's the first time I've had a chance to use the glass no button trackpad, or should I say one button. Everything's a button on the trackpad. First of all, just the trackpad alone, it's huge. It's awesome for scrolling around just because the size of it. And then, but not having a button is not a big deal. The nice thing about the whole trackpad being a button is that even if your muscle memory tells you that you should be clicking down where a button would normally be, that's not a big deal, because like I said, you can click anywhere and it registers as a click. So if you're used to that, you can just do it the same way on this, and then eventually you'll kind of get the feel of it that, hey, you can click anywhere. But it's just a really nice tracking surface, and what can I say? Otherwise, performance is great. Like I mentioned, I'm running a virtual installation of Vista, and in that I've used Photoshop, I've used Visual Studio 2008, and I haven't noticed any hiccups in performance. It's running great, which is cool because I'm using the newest version of Parallels 4.0, I think it is, and it's significantly better than the previous version. I had used an older version, and I ran into some issues where it would cause kernel panic and all that, but this one I haven't gotten any crashes or any hiccups. Everything's running really great. In fact, I used Vista, my virtual installation of Vista, to remote desktop to an XP machine, and even that ran pretty well. So the performance is really good. I'm happy with it so far. Let me think what else. Just the overall aesthetic of the machine, obviously. Same goes for every other MacBook Pro, but it just it's nice and thin, nice and light. Thinner than my 13-inch MacBook. I think the 13-inch MacBook, the old black and white ones, they're just like a shade above an inch. I think they're like an inch .08 or something, and this is a shade below an inch. And so the fact that I have a 15-inch machine now that weighs about as much as my MacBook does and is even thinner than my MacBook, and that's only a 13-inch machine, is pretty awesome. So that's pretty much it that I can think of. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll do my best to get back to you. Trying to think if there's anything else. One thing, I did order an iPhone 3GS, and that's going to be delivered. It's supposed to be delivered on the day that the iPhone 3GS comes out, which is next Friday, the 19th. So you guys can look for an unboxing video, hopefully, of that on Friday. But otherwise, I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, any questions or comments, feel free to leave a comment, and hopefully I'll follow up. But until next week, take it easy.